Okay, so now another topic, which is super sensitive. And Neil, I've listened to you 2 weeks in a row now. You're quite an intelligent gentleman. You call in Larry Rifkin's show. Gentleman Neil, no last names for HIPAA. I don't even know your last name. But I think Senator Kaine, who was on ATR last week, didn't necessarily address the topic as well as Neil would have liked. And I would have liked it a little differently. But you know what? Senator Kaine's a busy guy. He's got a family, and he can only address what he can address. But the gentleman asked the question about the casino and eventually about a couple other things. But what he really touched on is the medical marijuana. This is here to stay. And I've been emailing my HR directors that it is here to stay. In today's paper, the bill would remove pot prohibition. Well, is it inevitable? Is the writing on the wall? Yes. Senator Kaine really didn't address it that way. 2 Democrat senators and a possible Republican candidate joined forces Tuesday to push a bill to remove federal prohibitions on medical marijuana in 23 states, including Connecticut, where it is already legal. So there was an early discussion on my part. I talked about it, about 8 months ago I did that. Maybe 8 or 9 months ago. I was talking about the basics, that you have to inform your HR director and that it must be rewritten in the employee handbook. First of all, if you don't have an employee handbook, you should get one. It's simple. You can just keep a few pages. But this is here to stay. As of April 2014, when Maryland sanctioned medical cannabis, it now has a law permitting a medical marijuana use. You know what? They're not getting high and like getting the munchies. These are people with MS, with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, with AIDS, with cancer. So if you have a qualifying event, a debilitating medical condition, all the power to you. Chemicals, pills. I know my buddies are pharmaceutical salesmen and they always say, oh, you know, big pharma. That's fine. My father was a huge pharmaceutical sales rep for a company called Burroughs Wellcome. And the reason I went to college is due to pharmaceutical companies, so all the power to him. But this is a new approach. Cannabis is medical marijuana. It is grown professionally. I was able to make a client actually out of a cannabis facility, and they are taking this very seriously. They're affluent business owners. This is not like hanging around behind the wall at high school giggling. And no, this is a business. They are making huge strides with cancer and as far as MS, multiple sclerosis. So Eric Brown did a phenomenal job in the paper. I brought the paper in for any of you that did not read it, but it was Monday, March 2nd. And I had covered the topic with my medical marijuana pot poses challenges for workers' comp and HR people. So anyway, the long and short of the article is true, and you must pay attention. For you seniors out there, if you have any questions on Medicare, that would be great, but the season really is over. And I'll go over a little bit towards the end of this show if you are retiring. My friend Carolyn, she and I saw each other this morning, and she's retiring, so I can go over that. But this is important. For you HR directors out there, this is not to be taken lightly. You must put in place a full medical marijuana policy. If you are smoking cannabis before work, you must do it in enough time so that you are not impaired when you report to work. My philosophy is do not do it before work. But the law states, and again, Attorney Brown did a great job on this. He works for Secor, Cassidy McPartland. My buddy Don McPartland has a fine law firm, and I believe this gentleman still works for Secor, Cassidy McPartland, but if he does not, don't quote me on that. But ultimately, under the Fair Employment Practice Act, an employer's responsibility is to, A, put out a memo. You know, it is my job as the HR director, or is my job as the owner of this firm. If you have a legal medical marijuana card, you must inform us. If you, the employee, are listening on your smartphone or on TuneIn Radio, or what's our thing? Is it TuneIn?
Yeah.
Yeah, or on WATR.com, or on the radio, the old-fashioned way, just like on the airwaves. If you do not want to tell your employer, that's okay. Do not use it on the job. Now, secondly, a client of mine, a big machine shop in so-and-so town, I can't even say the name because it'll correlate too closely. They randomly drug test. They drug tested somebody, and it came up that they had cannabis in their system. Well, that's when the best time to tell your employer. They cannot fire you. I do not recommend you use it before work. I do not recommend you use it during work. But if in the evening you are responsible and you are in pain, or you're a veteran, and honestly, for what you've seen overseas, I thank you very much for your service, and do whatever you can to get through that post-traumatic stress disorder. Could an employer deny the use? Yes. The answer is yes. So you as the employer cannot allow the employee to do it during work. Ultimately, the question is, the use of marijuana is reasonably placed and an undue hardship on the employer and its operation. If it is used by the employee, does not cause an undue hardship, then the employer's blanket prohibition probably violates the anti-discrimination statute. You have to tiptoe on this lightly. I tried to reach out to the Office of the Healthcare Advocate this morning, and my friend Victoria Veltri did not get back to me. I'm not sure how the Department of Insurance is going to go about this. We, as insurance agents, have to put up HIPAA posters in the break room or in some kind of communal area at the employer. I'm sure within the next year you will see this. Just something small, that if you are a recipient of a medical marijuana card, please inform your employer, all right? I've exhausted that enough. But this is something you should be taking seriously, not lightly. Eric Brown, at his hourly rate, doesn't write articles for no reason. So the conditions are as follows, whatever I stated. If you're looking to find out more about the program, if you are a cancer patient, honestly, my mom threw up all the time. She would have benefited from this. She was a Pall Mall no-filter smoker. It wouldn't have made a difference whether it was a Pall Mall or this cannabis. I have gotten information that the cannabis, the oil, is the wave of the future, not the actual tobacco or the leaf to smoke it, whatever the proper term is. Some of my hippies call in and let me know what I'm saying wrong. But the leafy product is really still bad for the lungs. But the oil, the lollipop, there is other alternatives. And what it really does is it suppresses. I remember my mom throwing up bile all the time, especially after she lost her hair. She just looked terrible. So it does help with the appetite. All right? It wouldn't have been in the paper today. And Neil, it was a good subject you touched on with Senator Kaine. And he seemed to think it wasn't going to be. It will be an issue. This is definitely here to stay. It is not going to be covered by insurance companies. It will be 100% cash.